Over the years, many people have asked about doing something regarding identification. How do you identify species? And if I had a penny for every time I'd been asked, can you do something about identification? This is especially regarding the website. I'd still be skint because I wouldn't know where to start. Despite having a good grasp of identification, I wouldn't know where to start in telling somebody how do you identify this particular bug from that particular beetle or this particular moth from that particular butterfly. It's something you just learn, providing you put the hours in. And this is all I used to do every time I had a bath years ago. I used to take a book in with me and just go through the plates and the illustrations like this. Just used to flick through them, look through them. And after a while, you start to pick out certain moths. It might be something particularly bright, like an elephant hawk moth, or it might be something not quite as bright and in your face as elephant hawk moth. It might be something like this chap here, the Orache moth. And especially when you hear that the Orache moth is such a rare moth nowadays, and in fact only occurs in the UK as a very rare migrant. It's now extinct as a breeding species in the UK and has been for the best part of a century, I believe. No, I can't remember when they went extinct, but extinct it has. It was a moth that, like many others of species, I'd always wanted to see, and fairly recently I was able to secure some livestock from a supplier. And those eggs of the Orache moth arrived, and then over the next few weeks I looked after the caterpillars of the Orache moth. They grew very quickly. They were pretty much like any other noctuid really. They're hard to kill off if you wanted to kill them off, and they grew really well. It's often quite surprising how such a rare moth can be so easy to rear and presumably to breed. If they can be as easy as that in captivity, why can't they be like that in the wild? Why does something go extinct? And the Orache moth, it wasn't a widespread moth in the UK. I believe it was more of a fenland moth, but it eventually died out from there. But the caterpillars grew, and the caterpillars were variable, and they grew larger than what I was expecting, I must admit. They successfully pupated, and then all of a sudden, two moths decided to hatch. They thought that November was the right time, and hatch they did. The others are still waiting and will overwinter, presumably hatching out sometime next year. And what a moth it is! My old saying, it's an absolute stonker, and it is. It's not one of those in-your-face species. It's not bright and it's not gaudy. It's quite subtle in a way, but it's an absolute smashing species. It really is. And I was able to get this footage of the moth during the daytime, and you can see it's a beautiful moth. The overall background coloration is sort of several tones of greyish, quite subtle really, to be honest. The only really noticeable or obvious mark is that flame-like mark or streak diagonally across the middle of the forewings. But in places over the wings and on the thorax and on top of the head, the moth is covered in green scales and green hairs. It almost looks as though it's been sat on a tree for a long period of time and the lichens started to grow on it. It's an absolute beauty of a thing, and to be honest, I don't think that this video really does it justice. It's a moth that, if you get the chance to rear, then I would wholeheartedly recommend it. I know that sometimes the caterpillar turns up in salad produce from warmer climes. I know that people have successfully reared a caterpillar and eventually produced the adult moth. Stories like that used to give me the urge to try and get some livestock of Orache moth, and it is a species which has occurred in Nottinghamshire. There's a historical record, albeit rather suspect, as it's one of Stirling's, and Many years ago, Stirling's records from the Sherwood Forest area were regarded as being extremely dubious, and for good reason too. I don't think that many of Stirling's rare records of moths like Saxon and Orache Moth, amongst others, would ever pass a rarities committee. But it's on the notice list nonetheless. Now, I wanted some not only just to see the moth myself, it's the only way I am going to see it, but I wanted it to be on the website too. And there it is, an absolute beauty of a moth. It really is a fabulous thing to rear if you get the chance. Occasionally livestock is made available, and I would recommend you getting it. It's well worth rearing. But what a beauty. Just a shame that it's no longer found breeding in the UK. Maybe it could be one of those species that suddenly makes a comeback, arrives in the UK in stronger numbers and larger numbers, and settles down to breed. Been done by other moths. Why not this one?